Please give a warm Farm Bureau welcome to Senator Mitch McConnell.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Mark. Great to see you and Eddie Melton, Fritz Gieske, and David Beck, and to congratulate all of you on 50 wonderful years of the Farm Bureau breakfast. It couldn't be a better occasion to celebrate our state, both agriculture and urban areas here together in recognition of this great organization. We have a lot of challenges confronting our state and our country these days. As most of you know, we now have a debt the size of our economy, which makes us look a lot like a Western European country. We've added more debt in the last 4.5 years than all the presidents from George Washington down to George Bush. The administration has launched a war on coal, which has produced a virtual depression in eastern Kentucky. And of course, a war on coal is a war on the whole state, because one of our great competitive advantages, in addition to our wonderful location, is our low utility rates. So we have many challenges confronting us. I was interested in the governor's observations about Obamacare. Let's just take a look at what Obamacare is doing to our country. Let me start by quoting someone I don't often refer to in my public speeches, Jimmy Hoffa, the head of the Teamsters Union, who wrote a letter the other day to the administration and said, look, you're destroying the 40-hour work week and our Cadillac health care plans that we negotiated with our employers. So all across America, health insurance premiums are going up, jobs are being lost, people are downgrading full-time employees to part-time employees. And if you want to really know the whole picture, look at the front page of the Curious Journal this morning. UPS, the biggest employer in our state, is downgrading their insurance to remove spouses from their employees' policies in order to try to be able to afford to continue to provide health care for their employees. So, Governor, the solution to Obamacare is to pull it out root and branch. So let me turn to agriculture. I mentioned the war on coal and the impact of Obamacare. Let's take a look at the administration's attitude toward agriculture. First of all, they have been dedicated supporters of the death tax. You know, this is the government's final outrage that you have to visit both the IRS and the undertaker on the same day. Fortunately, I was in a position on New Year's Eve. I expect most of you remember where you were New Year's Eve, but you may not recall where I was New Year's Eve. I was with Joe Biden negotiating a solution to the fiscal cliff deal to try to prevent everybody's taxes from going up. Fortunately, we were able to preserve the Bush tax cuts for 99% of America's taxpayers, but of particular interest to agriculture is the death tax, to try to get your family farm down to the next generation. And this has been one of the top priorities for the Farm Bureau for as long as I can remember. And you know, if no action was taken at the end of the year, that exemption was going down to $1 million, the rate was going up to 55, and the question was, in the midst of a Democratic Senate that likes the death tax and a president that likes the death tax, what kind of deal could you negotiate? As a direct result of my talks with the Vice President, we were able to get a $5 million per person exemption and get the rate at 40 instead of 55. Now, to turn that, and permanent law, by the way, and index for inflation. Now, that will save virtually every family farm and small business in Kentucky from having to be sold to get it down to the next generation. Crop insurance. You probably thought the war on tobacco might be over with the tobacco buyout, which, as Mark indicated, I was able to write 10 years ago, and now we've had 10 years of compensation for that government-created program. Your asset has been paid for, in effect. But the war doesn't end. The majority tried to eliminate the eligibility for tobacco farmers for crop insurance just this year. Fortunately, we were able to defeat that, and crop insurance is still available for tobacco farmers, which is extremely important in our state. The other thing, and Governor, you'll have a role in this, and I'm confident this is something we can actually agree on, will be the question of the crop insurance availability for this year's crop because of some foul-ups on the part of USDA in getting the regulations out the door. Some of you run the risk of not being able to be compensated this year. If later this year the governor can certify that this was a weather-related issue, there's a relief available somewhere in the USDA department that we will help you work your way through and try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I had an opportunity to talk to the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture about this. She admitted they screwed up, they made a mistake, and it won't happen again, and we'll work with you to try to solve the problem for this year if you happen to be affected by it. The governor mentioned the farm bill. We will get a farm bill. In my view, it ought to be a multi-year farm bill like the Senate passed. We'll be working on that before the end of the month, and I assure you, Governor, there's plenty of time to solve that problem. We need a farm bill for Kentucky agriculture. To be perfectly frank with you, it's not the best farm bill I ever saw, but we'll get one. Finally, let me just say this. There's only one committee that I've been on from the day I was sworn in to today, and that's the Committee on Agriculture. Agriculture is still extraordinarily important to our state. Extraordinarily important. We are still 50%, I would say to you people from the city, we're still 50% small town and rural in Kentucky. Agriculture, as several speakers have indicated, is the heart of what we do here. And I assure you that my orientation is going to continue to be toward rural and small town Kentucky. It's absolutely critical to our going forward. My colleague Rand Paul can speak for himself, but we're allied on these issues. And we think that America actually would be better off if it were more like Kentucky. You know, the problem with farm bills in the House of Representatives, no matter who is in charge, whether it's a Democratic House or a Republican House, is that there are fewer and fewer people in rural and small town America, and the House is based on population. So obviously there are not as many people, regardless of party, who are interested and oriented toward rural and small town communities in the House of Representatives. The Senate, fortunately, thanks to our founding fathers, have 2 senators from every state, no matter how big you are. And so we have historically been a place that's more oriented toward rural and small town America. And I assure you, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we get the right kind of farm bill on a multi-year basis. I appreciate so much the opportunity to be here, and particularly to be with the leaders of the Farm Bureau, with which I often am reminded I agree with on virtually every issue. Thank you so much.